Chapter 20. Now Simon Peter and the other disciple followed Jesus. Now the other disciple was known to the high priest, and had entered together with Jesus into the court of the high priest. Now Peter stood unto the door outside. Therefore the other disciple went out, that one who was known to the high priest, and spoke to the doorkeeper, and brought Peter in. Therefore the high priest asked Jesus concerning his disciples, and concerning his doctrine. Jesus answered him, I spoke openly to the world. I always taught in the synagogue and in the temple, where the Jews always come together, and in secret I spoke nothing. Why do you question me? Question those who have heard what I told them. Behold, they know what I said. Now when he said these, one of the officers who was present gave Jesus a slap with the palm of his hand, saying, You do answer the chief priest in this way? Jesus answered him, If I have spoken badly, witness concerning the evil. Now if well, why do you beat me? Therefore ANNAS sent him bound unto Caiaphas the high priest. Now they who had seized Jesus led him away unto Caiaphas the high priest, having led him brought him into the house of the high priest, and all the chief priests and the elders and the scribes coming together to him. And now Peter followed him, away from afar until inside into the court of the high priest. Now they ignited the fire in the middle of the court, and they sat down together. And Peter, having entered inside, sat in the middle of them, together with the officers, to see the end, and warming himself with a light. And now Peter was outside below, sitting down in the court. And now came a certain one of the female child slaves of the high priest, and therefore this doorkeeper. When she saw Peter sitting under the light, warming himself, she came to him, and having gazed, looked intently on him, and said to Peter, Are you not also from the disciples of this man? You also were with Jesus the Nazarene of Galilee. And she said to others, This one was also together with him. Now that one denied him in front of all, saying, I am not. I do not know nor even understand what you are saying. Woman, I do not know him. And he went away outside into the porch. Now the slaves and the officers stood, having made a burning heap, because it was cold, and they warmed themselves. Now Peter stood with them also warming himself, and the cock crowed. And now after a while, as Simon Peter stood also warming himself, another saw him, and said to those there, This one was also with Jesus the Nazarene. And the female slave girl, seeing him again, and began to say to those who stood by that, This one is from them. Therefore they said to him, You are also from them. Are you not also from his disciples? And now he, Peter, again denied with an oath, saying that, Man, I am not. I do not know the man. And after a little while, about 1 hour interval, another certain one confidently affirmed, saying, On a truth, this one was also with him, for indeed he is also a Galilean. Now again those who came near stood by, said to Peter, Truly you are also from them, for indeed you are also a Galilean, and your speech agrees, evidently exposes you. One from the slaves of the high priest, being a relative to that one who Peter cut off the ear, said, Did I not see you in the garden with him? Now then Peter therefore denied again, began to curse, to bind himself under an oath, and to swear that, Man, I do not know what you say. I do not know this man of whom you said. And immediately, instantly, while he was still speaking, out of the second time the cock crowed. And the Lord, having turned, looked on Peter. And Peter remembered the word, the spoken word that Jesus the Lord said to him, that before the cock crow twice, you will deny me thrice. And Peter threw himself, went away outside, and sobbed bitterly. Now the chief priests and the elders and the whole Sanhedrin sought false testimony against Jesus, in order to cause him death, and found none. For indeed many false witnesses came, and testified falsely against him, and had found nothing. And their testimonies were not equal. Now afterwards, certain 2 false witnesses arose, came near to testify false witness against him, saying that, We heard him. This one say that, I am able to. I will destroy this same temple of God, made by hand, and through these days I will have another built, not made by hand. And neither in this way were their testimonies equal. And the high priest, having arose into the middle, questioned Jesus, saying to him, Do you answer nothing? What these testify against you? Now he, Jesus, was silent, and answered nothing. And again the high priest answered, questioned him, and said to him, I adjure you by the living God, so that you tell us if you are the Christ, the Son of the Blessed, the Son of God. Jesus said to him, You have said it. I am. But rather I say to you, away from even now you will see the Son of Man sit from the right of power, and coming on, and with the clouds of heaven. Now then the high priest tore his clothes, inner garments, saying that he blasphemed. What further need to have witnesses? Behold the moment you have heard his blasphemy. What do you think? Now they all condemned him, answered, saying, He is guilty of death. And the men who were together holding Jesus mocked him, flogged him. And then some began to spit on him, spat into his face. And now they blindfolded his face. And having blindfolded him, they beat him on his face, and punched him, slapped him, and they questioned him, saying to him, Prophesy, prophesy to us. Christ, who is it who struck you? And many other blasphemous sayings against him. And the officers brought slaps on him with the palm of their hands. And as the day had come into being, the council of elders of the people, also the chief priests and scribes, came together. And they led him out into the Sanhedrin, saying, Are you the Christ? Tell us. Now he said to them, If I tell you, you do not believe. Now also if I ask you, you will not answer me, nor release me. Away from this moment the Son of Man will be sitting from the right of power of God. Now they all said, Are you therefore the Son of God? Now he said unto them, You say, because I am. Now they said, What further need to have a testimony? For indeed we have heard away from his mouth. And now immediately on dawn having come, all the chief priests made a council with the elders of the people, and scribes, and the whole Sanhedrin against Jesus to cause him death. And having bound him, Jesus, they, the whole multitude of them having risen, having led him, carried him away from Caiaphas into the praetorium, and delivered him over to Pontius Pilate the governor. Then Judas, who delivered him, having seen that he was condemned, regretted, returned the 30 silvers to the chief priests and elders, saying, I have sinned, having delivered innocent blood. Now they said, What is that unto us? You will see. And he cast down the silvers in the temple, and departed, and going away went, and hung himself, and having fallen head first, he became burst in the middle, and all his bowels poured out. Now the chief priests, having taken the silvers, said, It is not lawful to put them into the Corban, because it is the value of blood. Now they took counsel, and bought from them the field of the potter to bury strangers. Therefore this, Judas indeed, of whom the chief priests acquired land from the reward of unrighteousness, became known to all those dwelling in Jerusalem, insomuch that they called that same land in their own language, Akeldama. This is to say, land of blood. For indeed it is written in the scroll of Psalms, Let his habitation become desolate, and he be not dwelling in it. And let another take his oversea ship. Therefore that same field was called the field of blood until today. Then was fulfilled that spoken through Jeremiah the prophet, saying, And they took the 30 silvers, the value of him who had been priced, whom they priced away from the sons of Israel, and gave those into the field of the potter, just as the Lord arranged for me. Now it was dawn, and they did not enter into the praetorium, so that they not be defiled, but so that they eat the Passover. Therefore Pilate went out unto them, and said, What accusation do you bring against this man? They answered and said to him, If this one were not an evildoer, we would not have delivered him to you. Therefore Pilate said to them, You take him and judge him according to your law. Therefore the Jews said to him, It is not lawful for us to kill anyone, so that the word of Jesus be fulfilled, which he spoke, signifying which type of death he was intending to die. Now they began to accuse him, saying, We have found this one, perverting the nation and forbidding to give tribute to Caesar, saying himself to be Christ, a king. Therefore Pilate, having entered into the praetorium again, and called Jesus. Now Jesus stood before the governor, and the governor, Pilate, questioned him, saying to him, Are you the king of the Jews? Jesus answered him, Do you say this away from yourself, or did others say this to you concerning me? Pilate answered, Can I be a Jew? Your own nation and the chief priests have delivered you to me. What have you done? Jesus answered, My kingdom is not from this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then my officers would fight, so that I not be delivered to the Jews. Now this moment, my kingdom is not from here. Therefore Pilate said to him, Are you then a king? Now he, Jesus, answered, saying to him, As you say. You say because I am king. Into this I was born, and into this I came into the world, so that I should witness to the truth. Everyone who is from the truth hears my voice. Pilate said to him, What is truth? And saying this, he went out again unto the Jews. And Pilate said unto them, the chief priests and the crowds, I find not even one cause in him, nor originating fault in this same man. Now they grew more fierce, saying that he stirs up the people, teaching throughout the whole of Judea, beginning away from Galilee until here. And the chief priests accused him of many things. And now in the accusations by the chief priests and the elders, he answered nothing. And then Pilate questioned him again, saying, Do you answer nothing? Do you not hear? See how many things they testify against you. And now Jesus still answered nothing unto him, not even one spoken word, insomuch that the governor Pilate marvelled much. Now Pilate, having heard Galilee, he questioned if the man is a Galilean, and having realized that he is from Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him back unto Herod. Also himself was in Jerusalem in that same day. Now Herod, having seen Jesus there, greatly rejoiced. For indeed he was desiring from a sufficient amount of time to see him, through hearing many things concerning him, and he hoped to see a supernatural sign be done by him. Now he questioned him in sufficient amount of words. Now he answered him nothing. Now the chief priests and scribes stood vehemently accusing him. Now Herod, together with his armies, humiliated him and mocked him, clothing him with a radiant robe, and sent him back to Pilate. Now in that same day, Pilate and Herod became friends with one another, for indeed before they were in enmity unto themselves. Now Pilate called together the chief priests and the chief rulers and the people, saying unto them, You have brought this man to me as turning away the people. And behold, I have examined him in the presence of you, and have found no origination of fault in this man which you accuse against him, but also neither Herod. For indeed I sent you unto him, and behold, nothing worthy of death is practiced by him. Therefore, having chastised him, I will release him. Now according to the festival, he, the governor, was accustomed to have of necessity to release to them, the people, one prisoner whom they desired. Now they had then a notorious prisoner called Barabbas, a robber, who was bound with fellow rioters who had committed murder in the sedition, who for the cause of a certain sedition, which came to pass in the city, and murder, was thrown into prison. And the crowd cried out loud, began to ask Pilate to do just as he always had done to them. Now therefore they came together. Pilate answered them, saying, Now there is your custom, so that I should release one to you in the Passover. Therefore whom do you desire? Are you willing that I release to you Barabbas, or Jesus called Christ, the King of the Jews? For indeed he knew that through envy the chief priests had delivered him. Now while he was sitting on the judgment seat, his wife sent to him, saying, You also have nothing to do with the same righteous one. For indeed today I have suffered many things throughout a dream for the cause of him. Now the chief priests and elders persuaded the crowd, so that they rather asked to release Barabbas to them, now destroy Jesus. Now the governor answered, saying to them, Which out of the two do you desire I release to you? Therefore now they all, with the whole multitude, cried out again, saying, Not this one, but Barabbas. Take away this one. Now release to us Barabbas. Now Barabbas was a robber. Therefore Pilate called, desiring to release Jesus again, answered, saying again to them, What therefore do you desire that I should do to Jesus, whom you call King of the Jews, called Christ? Now they all shouted, cried out again to him, saying, Crucify, crucify, crucify him, crucify him. Now Pilate, the governor, said to them, For indeed what evil has he done? But now they cried out the more, beyond measure, saying, Crucify him. Now the third time the governor said unto them, For indeed what evil has this one done? I found not even one originating fault for death in him. Therefore after having chastised him, I will release him. Now they pressed beyond measure, with loud voices crying out, asking that he be crucified, saying, Crucify him. And their voices and the chief priests overpowered. Now Pilate, having seen that he was profiting nothing, but even more an uproar coming to pass, he took water, washed his hands in the full view of the crowd, saying, I am innocent away from the blood of this righteous one. You will see. And every one of the people answered, saying, His blood be on us and on our children. Now Pilate sentenced that it be done, as they requested. Now Pilate, willing to appease the crowd, now released Barabbas to them, who for the cause of sedition and murder was thrown into prison, whom they had asked. And then Pilate, therefore having taken Jesus, delivered Jesus to be whipped, scourged, in order to be crucified. Now then the soldiers of the governor took Jesus, led him away into the inside of the court, which is the praetorium, and called together, brought together the whole cohort to him, and stripped him, plaited a wreath from thorns, and placing it around, put it on his head, and having enclothed him with a purple garment, and placed a scarlet military robe around him, and a reed on his right hand, and they kneeled before him, mocking him, and began to greet him, saying, Rejoice, King of the Jews! And they gave him slaps with the palm of their hands, and they spat at him, took the reed and struck at his head with the reed, and spat on him, and placing their knees, worshipped him. Therefore Pilate went outside again and said to them, Behold, I bring him outside to you, so that you know that I find not even one cause in him. Therefore Jesus went outside, wearing the wreath of thorns and the purple garment. And Pilate said to them, See the man. Therefore when the chief priests and officers saw him, they cried out, saying, Crucify! Crucify! Pilate said to them, You take him and crucify him, for indeed I find no cause in him. The Jews answered him, We have a law, and according to our law he owes to die, because he made himself the Son of God. Therefore when Pilate heard that same word, he was more afraid. And having entered into the praetorium again, and said to Jesus, From where are you? Now Jesus gave him no answer. Therefore Pilate said to him, Do you not speak to me? Do you not know that I have authority to crucify you, and I have authority to release you? Jesus answered, You could have no authority against me, except it were given to you from above. For this cause he who delivers me to you has the greater sin. From this Pilate sought to release him. Now the Jews cried out, saying, If you release this one, you are not a friend of Caesar. Anyone who makes himself a king speaks against Caesar. Therefore when Pilate heard this word, he brought Jesus outside, and sat down on the judgment seat, into a place called the Pavement, now in Hebrew, Gabbatha. Now being the preparation of the Passover, now about the 6th hour, and he said to the Jews, See your king. Now they cried out, Take him away, crucify him. Pilate said to them, Will I crucify your king? The chief priests answered, We have no king if not Caesar. Now therefore then he delivered him, Jesus, unto them, to their will, in order to be crucified. Now they having taken Jesus and led him away, and when after they had mocked him, they having stripped him of the scarlet military robe and the purple garment, and clothed him with his garments, and led him away to crucify, in order for them to crucify him. And he, carrying his cross at first, went away. Now going out, and as they led him away, they had found a Cyrenian man, who was passing by, called Simon. And taking hold of a certain Simon of Cyrene, coming out of the field, who was the father of Alexander and Rufus, they forced this one in order to take up his cross. They laid the cross on him to carry it behind Jesus. Now there followed him a much multitude of people, also women who were both beating their chests in grief and lamenting for him. Now turning unto them, Jesus said, Daughters of Jerusalem, do not sob over me, but rather sob over yourselves and over your children. Because see the coming days in which they will say, Blessed are the barren and the womb that never bore, and breasts which never gave suck. And they will begin to say to the mountains, Fall on us, and to the hills, Cover us. Because if they do these in a sappy wet wood, what will come to pass in the dry? Now also 2 other criminals were led together with him to be slaughtered. And they having come, carrying him unto the place of Golgotha, a place called Skull, which is called in Hebrew Golgotha, which is to say, translated, place of skull. And they gave him sour wine mixed with gall, mingled with myrrh, to drink. And having tasted, he did not desire to drink. Now he did not receive it.
Don't forget to subscribe.